Hi, my name is Heather, and today I'm going to show you how to create a multi-layer SVG of your own artwork with no outlines in VectorQ on the iPad that you can bring into Cricut Design Space. I'm doing this tutorial in VectorQ because it has become my favorite vector app for the iPad because everything just works right and I haven't come across anything buggy, which is amazing. You can actually download it for free, but then you will need to upgrade to the paid version to export, which is only $5.99, which is really good. When you first open up VectorQ, you're going to come to this home screen and you want to go to the projects gallery, and then we're going to click new, and I'll just pick square for the canvas size. I always like to start with a sketch because it's just easier for me. So I just did a pencil sketch in Procreate and saved it out as JPEG. So I'm going to click the little image icon right here. I'm going to open the tool panel and click the little plus sign, and then I'll select my image. And now I'm just going to click and drag to make my image as big as I want it to be, and then let go. And then if I want to move it around further, I can click on the arrow tool up here and then just move it around or resize. And I want him to be a little bit transparent so that he's lighter and it'll be easier to draw over. So I'm going to take my arrow tool, make sure he's selected, and then I'll go to Appearance and Effects, and I'm going to turn down the opacity. So that's pretty good. I have it on 28. And then I'm going to lock that layer so I don't have to worry that I'm going to accidentally shift it around. And I'll make a new layer, and this is where I'm going to do my drawing. So since this is not going to have any black outlines, it can be tricky, and there's definitely some things that we're going to need to keep in mind. So one thing is, we have the dog here, and we have his chin, and then we have his body and his feet. These are all the same color, but if we make them all the same color, they're just going to blend together. If I had black outlines, it would separate them. That does pose a little challenge, and we will have to work around it. So like for this example, I would probably just pull his feet out and have them on the sides of his body. For the mouth, I'm not totally sure. We could either do a darker brown, but you have to keep in mind, if this is for the Cricut, it will need to correspond with colors that exist for the Cricut. And we can't be doing shading, or we could maybe have like a little line of shading that would be cut out of a piece. But you don't want to have too many of those because then that's going to get annoying. You want to kind of keep it simple. So we could probably do the mouth with a darker brown maybe, or just do the outline, but we'd also have to outline the chin. You know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And then also the other thing is you have to think of your layers that you're making. So we can't just cut this out and then just have like this be a piece like that and then this be a piece that goes like this and goes around, because when you're doing iron on, there's shrinkage and it's not going to match up perfectly. 100% it will not match up. So instead, you need to make layers where like this will go behind the dog. And by the way, all this stuff is solved if you do the one with the black outline. So if you want to try that, check out my other video, but that one's in Affinity Designer. And I'll do a new one in VectorQ for that one also. But when we're not doing the black outline, you know, these are the issues that come up. So what we would need to do is like make this leaf go behind the dog, so it could go like a little bit farther like this, and then that way the dog would get ironed on over it and you don't have anything to match up. It's just overlapping. So we do need to think about that, but also in this picture here, I have like this leaf in the front, this in the middle, and this in the back. And then the dog's in front of all of that. That's a lot of different layer depths. So we probably want to simplify that a little bit. Like we'll probably just have 2 layer depths. So we'll probably just have leaves that are in the front and leaves that are in the back. And then we'll have the dog over the leaves. So those are just some things that we do need to think about when we're doing this style of SVG. With all that said, let's go ahead and get started. To start drawing, I'm going to use my brush tool, and if I go to tool brush, I'm going to have it on the pencil, and that's just going to have the same width the whole time. That's because these are all going to be shapes, and so really I'm just going to draw the outline of the shape and then convert it to a filled shape. So I'm going to have my size on something kind of small. So this is good, it's size 5. And we can also go to appearance and pick a color. So I have these swatches that I added here, and you can do that by going to this little swatch icon and just pick any swatches that you want to add. And then you can do add colors, and then it adds them. So that's kind of a neat feature. But also, when you change the color, make sure you're on fill and not stroke, because fill is what affects the brush color. So now that it's drawing good, I'll go ahead and do my outline. And I do need to be careful around these parts right here, because you're not going to see that line. So instead, I'll just have to make it so that you can see the separation by kind of making the ear come out from the head. So that's definitely one other thing that you need to think about when you're doing this style of SVG where it doesn't have the outline. And then if you want to do any edits, you can grab the node select tool and just click on a line and you can edit it. So this is the node. And then if you want to edit the curves, you can use these handles. And as you can see, there's not a ton of anchor points on here, and that's one thing that I love about Vector Q. If I were to draw this in Affinity Designer, there would be like a ton of anchor points, which makes it really hard to edit. It makes the file size bigger, it makes more work for the Cricut. Going through and cutting, it has to like follow each of those little points instead of just following the path from one point to the other. So that's one of the reasons why I really love Vector Q. I think I'm pretty happy with the dog head, and now I'm going to make it into a filled shape. So I'm going to grab my select tool and grab everything, and I do want to change this from a line into a shape. So you can see that it's a line right now because all you see is the one line. And I'm going to click the 3 lines, go to edit paths, outline stroke, and now these are shapes. The next thing I need to do is combine them. So instead of being a bunch of shapes, it's just one shape. So I'm going to go up to edit and click combine. And now they're combined into one shape. The last thing I want to do is make it into a filled shape. This is a little trick that you can do. I think it's the fastest way with the least number of steps. You just click the 3 lines, go to edit paths, and break apart. And all that really does is, instead of the inside path being like a cutout, it actually becomes its own shape. So now we have the inside path and the outside, and those are 2 different shapes. So we can just delete the one on top, which is the inside path, and now we just have the outside one, which is a nice filled shape. Now the next thing that I want to do is his little bottom jaw. I'm going to go with the option of doing another brown, but I'm going to try to keep it only to 2 browns. Let's keep this on a different layer. I'm going to go to the layers and I'm going to lock that layer. So you can see the layer right here with the dog head, and I'm going to lock it. And then I'm going to create a new layer, and that's where I'm going to draw the chin. This one's a little weird because they would really have to do the front over the back, which might be weird for iron-on. It'll be hard to kind of figure out where to iron that on. But I think that's pretty much our only option at this point. So now I'm just going to select the whole chin outline, and I'm going to click the 3 lines, and I'll go to edit paths, outline stroke, and then same thing we did before. I'm going to go to edit and combine. So now this is a shape, and we want it to be a filled shape, so we're going to break it apart. So I'll go to the 3 lines, edit paths, break apart. You should pretty much just memorize that whole sequence because it's really useful for so many things. Now I have the 2 shapes, and I'm going to take the inside one and delete it. So now here's the outside one. I'm gonna want this to layer underneath. So I'm gonna go to my layers and I'm just going to grab this layer and I'm gonna move it underneath the other one. So there's the chin and there's the head. The other thing is the body. So we really don't want to add a third brown because the person might not have access to 3 different browns. So I have a choice to make, and I'm definitely going to have to do the lighter brown for the body. So it will kind of bleed into each other here and here, but you know, we don't really have another choice. So I'll go ahead and lock the chin, and then I'm going to make that new layer, which I want it to be under the chin. So if I click on the bottommost layer and then make my new layer, then it makes it above that, and then that's in the perfect spot. So I'm going to grab my brush, go to Appearance, and click the lighter brown, and then I'll go ahead and draw this. Notice that I drew this shape so that it's going to be underneath the collar. So that way when you make it with the Cricut, you don't have to put a piece down for the top and the piece down for the bottom. It's just going to be one full piece. So that's going to make it a lot simpler just when you're creating it. So think about that and about how many pieces you're going to have. You don't want it to be too complicated where it's like annoying. And also I made it come down past the flower pot here, so that way whoever's using the SVG and making something with it can easily layer the flower pot over the body. So I'm going to grab my select tool and select my shape, and I'm going to click the 3 lines, edit paths, outline stroke, combine, and then 3 lines, edit paths, break apart. And then I'm just going to grab the guy in the front and delete it. Now we can go ahead and add a little collar, which is going to be on top of all of those. Since we want it on top, we're going to click the top layer and then add a new layer, so that way it's on top. I'm going to go to Appearance and select a color for the collar. I'm going to grab my brush. If we want to be able to see the collar here while we draw, we can always hide some of these layers. So like I can click the little eye right here, and then that way I can see the collar. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did with the other ones. So I'm going to grab my select tool, select all of it, 3 lines, edit paths, outline stroke, edit, combine, 3 lines, edit paths, break apart, and then I'll delete the top piece. And now I can show this other layer again. Basically, you're just going to repeat that for the whole rest of the drawing. So we do have these paws here which overlap. So I'm going to do those, but I'm going to move them over to the sides so that we don't have to worry about the overlapping with the body. Now I'm going to do the plants. I originally drew it with like a leaf in the back and then a leaf above that one and then a leaf above that one, but that's too many layers. So I'm going to change it around so that I just have like 3 in the back and then 3 in the front. And I'll connect them all so that it's easier for the person making it, so that they don't have all these different leaves to glue on or iron on. They'll just have like one section and another section. And we do have kind of a precarious situation with the tail, because it would actually need to go under this leaf and above that one. But they're going to be the same object. But I don't think it's a huge deal because the tail is kind of a piece that can, you know, move up a little or move down a little. It's just a little bit of a curve here and a little bit of a curve here. So if one's bigger or smaller, it's really not that big of a deal. So I'm going to keep it like that. But maybe I will just move the tail a little bit. And now I'll do my other green. It may look a little different than you expected once you get all your filled in pieces. So like this, for example, why are his feet floating? So you can unlock some of these layers and just kind of move stuff around. this we want it to be in front of his neck, so we can bring this up. And then I don't like this empty space right here, so I'm going to just edit the leaf and make it come down a little further. Now I can move on and do the bottom part of the planter. And don't forget to lock your other layers so you don't mess them up while you're drawing. And you do want to make sure that you have a closed shape. So if I hide this top part here, then you can see there's like a little hole right here. So we want that to be closed. Otherwise the filling in isn't going to work how we want it to. All right, so we got most of it done, and now we can just finish adding his face. I'm going to actually hide the shape of the face so we can see the sketch. And I'll just do black for the little eyes and the nose. And those are going to be layers all the way on the top. So I'll click the top layer and add a new layer. It can be hard to draw circles and ovals when they're really small. So actually I'm going to use the shape tool instead. So I'm going to click these shapes and I'll go to the tool shapes panel and click the circle, and I'll make little circle eyes. Oh, and it did add a stroke on them. I don't want that. So I'm going to go to appearance, go to stroke, and click no stroke. And now we just have the filled one. Actually, I'm going to make it more of an oval like that. And then let's make them the same. So I'm going to duplicate this. And to do that, I'm going to click the 3 lines and duplicate. And then for the nose, I want that to be an oval. So over here in the shapes panel, there's this little icon right here that says 1:1. And so that means it's a perfect square ratio. So it would be a circle. So if we click on that and turn it off, then we can do a nice oval. And then of course you can always modify it after too. So there's my little oval. And now I'm going to turn the face back on like that. Now we have our little layered puppy. And I'm going to get rid of the sketch layer now because we're done with that. So I'm going to click on that layer and click this little delete layer button. The other thing is that if you wanted the feet and the tail to actually be connected as one object so that they would actually get cut out like in this arrangement instead of like Cricut putting a foot and a tail like next to each other. If you want them to stay in this arrangement, then you'll want to combine them into a compound path. So in order to do that, let's make sure all of our other layers are locked. And then we're going to unlock just the layer that has the feet and the tail. I have to be on that layer. Grab my select tool and select them. I'll go up to edit and we can just click this combine. And then that actually combines them into one shape. So they'll actually come into Cricut Design Space as one shape instead of 3 separate little shapes. So now we're all done and we can export it to an SVG. In order to do that, you will have to upgrade to the paid version, which is $5.99. And then whenever you're ready, you can go to share and we're going to pick SVG. I'm going to click on this right here and I'll do save to files. I'm going to name it. Now we can go to Cricut Design Space. We'll do new project, upload, browse files. I'll find my puppy, insert, and there he is. There's our little puppy. And we can go to our layers. You can see all the little pieces here. And you can see that the feet and the tail came in as one. And then you can go ahead and make your puppy. And you can also, of course, sell this on Etsy or any other sites where you can sell SVGs. I hope you liked this tutorial. I would love to see what projects you come up with. You can always email me at heather@heathercash.com. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments or email me. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe, and then I'll know to make more content like this. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!